Hi guys, in this video, basically we are going to cover the very specific topic performance tuning and the optimization for an application, right? So what is the performance tuning and optimization and how we can do it, right? And what are the core concept and what are the core areas which you need to focus on, especially for a performance tuning and optimization for a web application. And there is a different type of, you can say, approach for a different type of applications to optimize the performance, right? So as an example, for Android application, you need to follow the different approaches and different ways to optimize the performance. For UI application, right? If you are talking about which is you are building into a React app or Angular app or any other UI based framework, there will be a different approaches and the different, you can say, things you need to use it and tools you need to use for optimize the performance, right? So first we are talking about different type of application, right? Correct. So there will be a different type of applications, right? Maybe you can say Android app, right? If you are talking about UI apps, right? If you are talking about Java based apps, right? Then you are talking about the databases, right? And right, this is basically you need to understand it when we are talking about different. Then also you need to think about system architecture, right? Uh, when we are talking about for performance optimization, right? System architecture also you need to check it out, right? Then you need to check for design, right? Then you need to check for the API level, right? Then you also need to check for what we can say at code level, right? In any particular language, how you will do it. So in Android, how you will basically use it, if you are using a Flutter, if you are using a Kotlin, if you are using a Java, so how you can optimize it. In UI apps, if you are talking about React app, Angular, or any other dependent frameworks, how you can use the different approaches. Java based applications, right? So there are a certain approaches you need to follow for particularly for internally at web layer. If you are talking about it business layer, right? What type of different kind of a classes you are using it and what is the logic you are using it, that is also impacting. Then also you need to talk about database layer. So in database level also you need to think about what we can call as how you can optimize the performance at the database. So majorly it's a core, you can say, and very important point at the database layer, right? So here you can talk about database layer, right? Then you can also talk about seven. Uh, Here we can say, apart from database layer, right? Database interaction, right? So database interaction, right? That is also one of the layers. So if you know that in our application, it's into a multiple layers. So we have a UI layer, then you will send that you can say connect to APIs, right? So when we are connecting to APIs, from API, you will send your details to a particularly into business layer, from business layer to a DAO layer when you are saying data access object. So when you are connecting to a database and then later into a database, correct? So every layer you will have a certain type of performance optimizations and you can look for a performance, what we can say, the improving that perform, how you can tune it, correct? Then there are some other topics of a tuning that is we will look into it. So in UI layer, first thing is that how and what kind of a design you are using it. So in React app and Angular app, how you can categorize and creating a different components, right? And then how you are interacting to a different kind of connecting to APIs, right? So what are the advantages? Now you will see there are SSR, right? Server side rendering. That is also people are using into React, that is introduced, I guess, in JDK 17 for improving the performance. Like this, there are many such other things you can do to improve the performance into UI, right? How you are loading the HTML content, right? And then how you are using the CSS, right? So that how your page is basically responsiveness of your page, That is basically we need to tune and we need to find it out, right? So you can use there are many such tools to check the performance like a JMeter and many such check that we do a performance testing. So that is you can do it, correct? System architecture is overall system architecture is also when we are talking about you can say so system architecture. I can tell you the giving an example here, right? So system architecture when we are talking about especially let's say if you are using some certain data which you wanted to fetch very frequently, so you can use that caching here, correct? So people use that redis cache and many such other places, right? If you are using that aws, we create that read replicas, right, which is basically so that we don't need to connect to you can say the main database, and you can get it from read replicas, where you can have read the data frequently, correct? Like this, that is you can use it. And so like this, there is a 2 points here. Apart from that, there is a many other ways also you can optimize at the system level, right? How you can what are the different ready-made services if you are using it, if you are using maybe let's say aws provided services or any other third-party services which you have already optimized here, or maybe there are some other frameworks and tools which you can use it. So architecture level, you can have a different kind of an optimization based on the application, based on the scenarios like that. Design, when you are designing that particularly application, right? How and you are interacting to different other systems, or maybe if you have created a different you can say internal objects, right? So how you are creating an objects, how you are calling to a different. So let's say in microservice architecture, correct? So in that scenario also you can optimize the performance, right? So certain things, let's say if you wanted to minimize the multiple calls, right, if you wanted to get some data quick and fast here, so in that scenario you can, if you are talking about in microservice architecture, so there are different ways when you are creating a microservices, right? If you are fetching a data or if you are performing certain operations, so in that scenario also you need to look for that architecture level, right, or design level. Inside that microservice also you can look for that at design level, right? So there is a different kind of a consideration when we are talking about optimizing the performance. Now, when we are looking for an API level, so simple example, you can look for that what is the difference between REST API and the GraphQL. So in GraphQL and definitely we can tune that query, right? Based on that, that client can request the data whatever they wanted. So you don't need to send and get back the entire data, right? So like this, you can optimize the performance here. That is a one. I am just giving an example. Like this, many such other you can say ways you can optimize the performance at the API level, right? So normally whatever data you need it, you can use it. One more example I can give it to you. You have seen there is a concept of a pagination, right? So people use the concept of a pagination so that you don't need to get entire data. So if you have a Gmail, take an example. So you are not getting entire 10,000 emails in one shot. So there is a, you will see 50 emails, 100 emails, and once you do the click on the next, then you will load the data or you will get the another 10 emails. So if you will get that 10,000 emails, maybe it will take a too much time and there can be chance for timeout or many such other ways there can be it can impact it. So you will get that data for that is we can use a concept of a pagination. The pagination is also come under your design and it can also be come under your API level like this, right? Pagination and sorting, that kind of a, you can say thing you can do it. So there are many other ways you can also optimize it, that what type of what we can say API you are using it. Based on that, you can use, right, and you can tune it at the API level, right? Then also you can use at the API level. Are you using a Spring Boot or you are using a Quarkus? So Quarkus is also providing a support for AOT, ahead of time, right, compiler. And there is some other ways when you are choosing an API, how you are building an API. Are you using a Kotlin or you are using some other APIs? So there is also a consideration when you are choosing an API, then also it is impacting to an API level, correct? So later, if you are talking about code level, so let's say if you are talking about Java-based application, so there is a especially in collection. So how multi-threading? So definitely if you will go with the multi-threading, you can optimize the performance, right? And you can achieve the task here, right? Asynchronous processing using some task, and that you can say concurrent APIs you are using it. But how you are implementing the concurrent APIs, so you need to handle the concurrency in two proper ways. But apart from that, also you need to understand the overall, you can say, concept for inter-thread communication, right? Because when you are implementing a multi-thread to improve the performance, at the same time, you need to check that there is a limitation and consideration for concurrencies, right? So, and also there are APIs, like what are the different APIs? If you are, let's say, talk about different APIs in array list, and not an API is for classes, array list and linked list. So which is a faster in some certain operations, right? So what are the different other, what we can call as classes you will use for optimizing for better performance, right? If you have some search operation, sorting operations, and many other operations, in that scenario also at code level, if you are unnecessarily doing a iteration and loop, right, at this moment also you need to check that how you can write batch operations if you are doing in somewhere. So at this moment also you need to logic and code, you need to tune it properly, right? So code level also, that is you can take it up. There are some certain tools which can pick it up, but also you can look for that at logic level. So here is also you need to check for a logic, right, when you are writing any code. So how you can get that particularly task can be completed, and you can optimize the performance at code level and the logic level, right? Then there is a database layer. So database layer, there are many such things in NoSQL databases. Also, there are some other considerations. If you are using, let's say, Amazon Aurora, or maybe there are other, you can say, databases, right? With they provide primary and secondary indexes, right? Then also you will have a different kind of indexes into your simple RDBMS, right? If you are having a complex query and joins, so how you can use that at this moment, that because whenever you are executing a complex queries and you are getting the result, it is majorly impacting to performance, right? So you should have a proper normalized table, you should have a properly unique indexes, and then if you are using that index based column, so you can get a much better performance, right? And then there is also a concept of many such other related to how you are managing a transactions also, that is come under your database interaction. So lazy loading, right? Then cascading, right? Then also you can say which we are talk about how you are maintaining the transaction, right? As much as your transaction will be big, right, it will not release the connection object, correct? And there are multiple other considerations you need to take about. So you need to achieve that your acid properties also, atomicity, integrity, consistency, and durability. At the same time, you can also optimize the performance, right? So at this moment, database interaction level also you need to check it out. Then there is a different, maybe Spring JDBC template, Spring Data JPA, and there are some other, nowadays everybody is using a Spring Data JPA, but there are many such other consideration also you can take it up, right? When we are fetching up the data, right? So do you want to fetch the entire data, or you wanted to use the pagination kind of a concept here? Or if you are fetching that, do you wanted to get your child or some of these objects also, right? When you are having a relationship. So at database interaction level, many such things you can optimize it. And if you have a multiple read operations, so we should not give any call and connect to your database operations, right? So that is basically we can get it from your some of the cache, or like static data. Generally, people don't connect to a database, and we store into one of the cache, maybe H cache here. If you are talking about Redis, and there are a different other people are also using into a product base. You can say that H2 in memory databases also people are using it. So there are a different comparisons for talking about the throughput and other things, right? You can check for the comparison, right? That is also available. And if you are implementing on AWS or things like that, then you will also get that these kind of services, how in memory database or these you can say caching services will help to you, correct? Then also at UI layer we have already discussed, so I'm not going to too much deep about it, right? If you are talking about particularly Android apps, So Android apps also you need to discuss and look for a different kind of a consideration how these activities you are creating here, right? It is a multiple activity or single activity based app you are doing it, right? And what are the tasks you are performing it, correct? And how you are writing a logic, what are the different design concept you are using internally, correct? And then what kind of internal storage you are using it, right? So that is also impacting to entire performance here. So these things you need to understand, right? Especially for optimizing the performance, right? So each and every layer, there is a requirement for optimizing for a performance here, right? Then there is also a concept for if you are design and system architecture level, if you are creating a multiple replicas, so you can get that what we can call as something we can call using the load balancer. You can route that topic based on the some certain algorithm. So I have already created a one of that video for your how you can use the load balancer and how it can help. So if you have a multiple replicas for your application, so certain requests can go to a particular replica, or certain requests can go to some other replica based on your algorithm, whatever setting you are doing it. So at this point also you can use that responses. Then also there is a at system architecture level, people use an on-demand kind of setup people request it. So in cloud, you can have a setup something like that when you are this memory utilization in Kubernetes provides like that actually. When you have memory utilization and CPU utilization goes then more than 90%, you can create one more replica, correct? Or in the same time, you can also in your AWS system, you have on demand, you can say machines when you can request for some certain machines based on some particular time when you are feeling that okay, I'm getting that multiple heavy requests on some certain every Saturday, Sunday, or maybe on Christmas time, or maybe on any other but we can say when they release some offer here 4th July in USA, there is a particularly big sale is going on. So at this moment you can request any on-demand machine here on, you can set up and you can have get that so that machine can handle the request, right? So like this, there is a different kind of a system architecture level optimization. In AWS, they also provide AWS Cloud Front, I guess, right? So that if you wanted to minimize the network latency, right? So is also one that is also consideration at the system architecture level only, right? So I'm talking about it's an AWS. Maybe you can check what this kind of services into, right? So AWS CloudFront is one of the services you can which you can use it. So when some certain requests they are coming from a particular reason, so it will cache it so that you let's say if you are requesting or looking for e-commerce website, so e-commerce website need to frequently upload that images and the data. So these images every time you need to fetch it from some of the database or maybe S3 storage. So rather than you can cache it because for some certain time you can configure, let's say for 24 hours or something like that, because frequently you are getting that request from that reasons like that. So you then need to hit to a backend storage to populate and fetch it, right? So this way also you can do it. And to minimize the network latency also, you can create that entire application into a particular region. Correct. That is also another advantage when we are talking about optimization, right? So let's say majorly your client base it's for into North America. So you can create your machine into allocate into that particular region, right? In US East one or something like that. So you can find out that exact reason, right? Over there you create it so that it will not be taking a too much time. If you are creating a machine into an India and you are majorly client base is coming from America, so that will be the network latency will be very high. And also you need to create your databases also into a same reason so that your machine to database will also not taking a too much time to connect it and get the data from you, right? So that is also come under your system architecture level, right? Your design, your API level. So these things is basically you can use it, right? There are so many other considerations also you can take it up, right? When we are talking about particularly for optimizing a performance here, correct? So this is the all about performance tuning and the performance optimization. You can go little much more deep inside in it to check it, and there are different tools, right, which you can use it to check the performance. Now nowadays many such tools are already available for monitoring, for health checks. Also you can check for performance testing. There are tools are available which you can use it, and you can explore it, right? So thank you very much.